Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Crossing the Streams. Woo!
Happy Wednesday! Woo!
Episode 34. This is exciting. So exciting. So exciting. We had to bring Tony B back. Tony Berardo. What's up, Tony?
What up? Thanks.
Hey, as always, you know how we start every show before we get into it with our theme song.
Here's the story of some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really. Just between you and me.
Howard.
They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff, Ron, Zach, Sal, and Bob, and there's Howard. They call it Crossing Streams.
Zach.
And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we crossed the streams.
We crossed the streams. We crossed the streams.
That's
the way we do it here. We crossed the streams.
Yay!
Oh.
Bomb chicka bomb bomb. All right, that was awesome.
That was okay. I feel like I got a little too Brady in the beginning of it. Like I was trying to
I
sound
think
like with the women there. Yeah, well, it didn't work.
I
out
think
well.
you did. The big shocker was Zach has a voice of an angel.
Yeah,
Where's he been hiding it all this
practiced.
time?
Well, why haven't we been pushing Zach more? But though, for those of you who did notice, Zach's made the theme song.
Woo!
Yeah.
I am big time.
That was big time.
He called up the righty.
Oh man! So welcome everyone crossing the streams. Great to have y'all.
Howdy, howdy.
We're gonna talk about lots of shows today that you should be streaming. We've got 33 other episodes live on YouTube. You can check those out. Well, they're not live, taped live, but available. Just go to YouTube, search the Jeff DeWaskin Show. In the show notes, there's a quick link to it. You can subscribe, get a notification every time we go live. You'll be notified, and you can come. We love talking to the audience. We got some comments. Zach's back. Jason's excited to have you back. Yeah,
Jason.
Jerry's
Hello.
here.
Jerry.
Oh, next to the Chuck E. Cheese singers, we're the best. That's great.
Yeah.
Hey.
I like the
Furry.
showbiz guys better.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like you can't the Italian chef guy. I don't think I would feel bad if I really felt I was better than him.
We talking about sex?
Hi, Lee.
Hi, Lee.
Hey-o.
All right. Well, we do have a guest, a return guest. Let me see. Here we go. We got Tony. You may love the. You may love Tony's podcast or reaction videos.
Or lack of reaction videos.
Tony, tell everyone about you real quick.
Yeah, thanks. Well, thanks for having me on. This is fun. I always love coming on here and talking about all the cool shit we got going on. Sorry, it looks like a Zack Snyder film in my studio. A couple of my lights went out, so I got to recharge those.
A Zack Snyder film should be lucky to look as good as you.
Oh. But yeah, name's Tony Berardo. I host
Your
a podcast.
dialogue is already better.
I'm like 3 monsters then, Howard. That's why. But I host a podcast called the Berardo Podcast. You can listen to it everywhere. And then, of course, if you want some very exciting reaction videos, I make all types of faces. You could visit youtube.com/Tony Berardo, but you can check out all my content there. So let's do it.
Yeah. And if you're looking for other podcasts, I host the Live from Detroit, the Jeff DeWaskin Show. Bob hosts the Sal and Bob Show with Bob Phillips, who is in here today. And Zach hosts about 55 different podcasts, all available at Some Nobodies. He's a true podcast innovator. And we're
True.
lucky.
That is true.
Lucky to have him. Speaking of lucky, you guys are lucky. We got 33 episodes of goodness just waiting for you on YouTube or Facebook at facebook.com/JeffIsFunny. Last week, we talked about the White Lotus, a glitch in the Matrix, which you actually were warned you of. Bob talked to us about this episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Actually, we're going to go to a live feed in a minute. He's still talking about the same episode. and fatherhood. with Kevin Hart. We got into a real debate. Sal couldn't decide if there were enough jokes in that or not. This week, episode 34, you can look forward to Woodstock 99, McCartney 321, Shot Caller, and the Last Paradiso. I hope I said that right. Okay, so that's exciting. So there's some exciting stuff that's been going on in the world. One, Ted Lasso, episode 1 was last week. I have watched it twice.
It's so
what
good.
did you think?
It just continued. It was just like, you're like, how is that possible that it's gonna start and be? And it was. I thought it was superb. It like just the same feeling. And I just hope the show continues that way. If they're smart, that's what they'll do. And I don't know. I loved it. I can't wait for every episode now.
I'm not gonna lie.
Zach?
Oh, Zach,
Jeff?
you want?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I was gonna say I don't want to. I can't lie and don't think that when he is asked about character dies and like I don't want to ruin it, and he's asked about the character and he tells a story. I had to watch it again because I teared up the first time. I couldn't even make it through the second time.
Oh, Jesus,
I believe it.
It was so. Jason Sudeikis is like freaking magical. I don't even know how he does it.
Yeah. So real quick, I just read an article that talked about the genius of the character development from a script writing standpoint and directorial standpoint of the first season, about how you create an absolutely iconic, lovable character in 1 minute, 57 seconds of screen time. Did you read that article? It was amazing. And just really quick, they said the first time you see him is when they flash up his photo from talking on Sports Center in the first episode that he's going to coach in England. Then they show the video of him dancing with his players, everybody loving him and happy. Then they flash to the airplane where he's joking around with Coach Beard. And then the guy who comes over and basically says, this is going to be a disaster. He's absolutely nothing but nice to. And in 1 minute and 57 seconds of screen time, you have a character that you can't help but just be happy about. And I never really thought about it until I read that article. I'm like, you're right. You just loved him the second you saw him. It's just a brilliant show. And he's having a good year.
Now, is it worth getting Apple Plus? Because I don't have Apple.
Yes. Not just for that, but there's other good movies and shows too.
Okay.
I agree, Aaron. It should be binge watch. What's cliffhangers? Oh, who did we just lose? That was Zach. Anyway, I didn't know that Ted Lasso was like, it started out as like a commercial for soccer. Like they made the character, and Coach Beard was in it. Some of the jokes are repeats.
They used him to advertise watching that week's soccer broadcasts of the English Premier League in America. So they kind of made it, kind of funny that way. And then it was Olivia Wilde who basically told him that he should consider doing something more with the character because it was so beloved.
And you always listen to Olivia Wilde. Always.
True. You do.
Yes.
Unless you do get divorced by her and then you start dating Keely Hazel, which isn't a bad thing either.
Not a bad
thing. He got messed up, but we won't go there right now. But we'll do a whole episode on that, on how he was wrong. I don't know where Zach is.
Can I give another update on a show that we talked about previously? Kevin Can Fuck Himself, that just finished its first season for those of us that have AMC Plus. I won't. No spoilers. Just for those of you who have AMC Plus and have watched the full season, and I know you have because you saw my review. But for those of you who haven't and are leading to it, it built and built and built, and I continue to think it's just an amazing premise of a show, and I truly hope they bring it back for a second season because it's really, really well done. And I very, very much enjoyed it. And then Flatbush Misdemeanors, which I mentioned as well, is getting every episode. It is one of the true, for me at least, laugh out loud funny shows on television right now, and it's not a ha-ha laugh fest comedy. It's just a very subtle, smart, and so continue to check those out if you started or if you saw the review and haven't started yet.
Nice.
Okay.
Good call. Zach is back. What up?
Zach is back.
Yeah.
So who's seen the? I know Tony did a whole reaction video for the new Ghostbuster trailer. Tony, share your one reaction.
Yeah, well, let me point out. So usually my reaction videos, I never, once it pops up and I'm in the studio, I don't actually watch it and do a reaction video. That's my real reaction. So sometimes it works out well, but in this case, there was not a lot of exciting things that happened. And I think I went into it like so hypocritical and so judgy with it for good reason. I mean, we got a lot of teasers and, there was some production delays and all that, but mainly because I'm worried that it's going to pull like a Jurassic World on us. Like, Jurassic Park 1 was great. The Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, Now, Jurassic Park World, or Jurassic World was great, but now we're on like, I don't even know, the third or fourth one. So then it's like, okay, the dinosaurs escape, the billionaire wants to grab them, and then they end up escaping, and we get it. So I don't want this to be that with Ghostbusters. So I'm like, I'm hoping Paul Rudd didn't sign like a trilogy deal or something. So I'm a little bit hesitant with this because I think if they do it the right send off with Dan Aykroyd and I get a little Murray in there, I'm happy. But if they end up making this 3 or 4 movies that don't need to be, then it's going to ruin the whole franchise for me. And it's one of my favorite franchises of all time. And Melissa McCarthy fucked that up. I just hope they don't do the same thing with this. That's all.
I gotta believe they have to have some kind of multi-picture deal to bring in the young kids from like Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And I mean, my main takeaway is, holy cow, does Paul Rudd look good? How does he continue to look better and better every time?
Yeah.
The man does it's like he reverse ages. He looks better than he did in Friends 20 years ago.
Yes.
Like Rob.
Remember in Clueless? He was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And he gets even better. They should just make a movie just call it Paul Rudd.
It was not funny. It was like a couple minutes just to kind of get to hello. Yeah. Oh, that was Dan
Right.
Aykroyd.
That was the best part. I was so geeking out about that. I was like, yes.
So
Yeah, it was
All
boring.
right.
It was boring.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that I don't think the trailer looks great, and it's not a ha-ha comedy like the first one. The only thing I will say that I'm willing to give it a chance is Jason Reitman directing it has done some very good films. He hasn't missed.
I think it deserves.
He hasn't missed a ton.
And in all fairness, Ghostbusters 2 is not a good movie. So
Horrible.
a lot
It's
of people
not.
are like, "Oh, this franchise is so." No, Ghostbusters 1, fine, aggressively fine, fairly funny movie. Ghostbusters 2, really mediocre at best. The Melissa McCarthy one, literally as average of a movie as possible. It's not a bad movie. It's not a good movie. It just exists. But I don't think that it's worse or better than Ghostbusters 2. So this movie doesn't have a whole lot to there's not like a big bar that it has to hit to be good. It's just like, be a good movie about ghosts and emotions. That's it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, Jason Taylor loved it. So everyone who also loved it, check out the 3 Geeks podcast, because I'm sure then you'll love his podcast. Got you a plug, Jason.
Let's point out, Jason, what's up, man? I love how non-confrontational that was.
You need to be creative to like Ghostbusters 2.
No.
It was horrible.
Ghostbusters 2 is like, let's do the things that we liked from Ghostbusters 1. Also add for no reason a child. We even like say that like Bill Murray is a bad dude. Like he did a bad job in a relationship, so Sigourney Weaver left him, and the whole movie is for some reason him trying to show her that he's a decent guy, I guess, even though he's not good with kids. He's not a decent, whatever.
Anyway, hey, go stepping back a minute. Aaron says you can bundle Apple Plus with Apple Music if you have it. So there you go.
There you go.
All right. Well, since
money saving tip.
Since Zach is warmed up, let's move into the Netflix.
Yeah!
Netflix. Yeah. Oh, we get letters from all over the world. We love the Netflix.
Hey, just so you know, it's not confrontational. I like fighting about movies, not people. I don't fight people. I fight I fight about opinions, and most people's are wrong. But if you don't know what I'm doing here, for some reason, I charged myself with a challenge to watch what is the newest category on Netflix called the Top 10 in the U.S. This is a stupid category. I don't know why it showed up, but it's been here for a while now, and I'm trying to figure out what is the metrics behind it. And what it works out is there are 75 million people in the US that have Netflix, and whatever they watched yesterday shows up on this stupid category today. And here's the garbage that the United States watched yesterday. Coming in number 10. I don't know if you guys have heard about this. In 2012, there was a pretty big moment where two things happened. Not only did a saga begin, it also ended. And it is the Twilight Saga. Breaking Dawn Part 2 came out, and it's the final Twilight Saga. Now, it begins with Bella. She's now a vampire, and she's learning to use her abilities. And she's happy to see her daughter Renesmee, which is made up of the worst pixels known to man. But when someone sees Renesmee do something that makes them think that she's turned, the person goes to the Volturi, because, look, this movie's garbage. It's the last movie of the Twilight series, directed by Bill Condon. It's written by Melissa Rosenberg and Stephanie Meyer. Obviously stars Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson, and Taylor Lautner. The story is good, I guess. Out of all the 5 movies that makes up 4 books, this is the best movie. The fight scenes are pretty fun, except they do that thing where like they don't exist because they're an imagination. But either way, yeah, it's people are watching it a lot. Coming in number 9. Twilight, the first one. Now, I rewatched this thing from 2008. Now, this is when Bella Swan moves to a small town in the Pacific Northwest, and she falls in love with Edward Cullen, a mysterious classmate who reveals himself to be an 108-year-old vampire. Yeah, really stupid movie. He is a gorgeous man. When I saw him, I was like, oh, okay, now I see what's going on. Once he opened his mouth, nope, it is garbage. He is strong and confident, but he's also whiny, and he's kind of like a smitten child, but he's 108, but he's also 16. He's brooding. He's also in pain. Bella's delicate. I don't understand what's happening here. Just so you guys know, if you don't know about this, Twilight as a series, as a book series, was written as a fan fiction to the group Muse, the musical group Muse. Somebody, her name is Melissa Rothberg, and Stephanie Meyer. They wrote what they thought was what they heard from Muse albums, which turned to the Twilight series. So just so you know, that's where that comes from, and it's garbage. Watch it if you want. Number 8. Walking Dead, the 2010 TV show. This is about Deputy Detective Rick Grimes wakes up from a coma and learns the world is in ruins and must lead a group of survivors to stay alive. Obviously, this is based on a comic by Frank Darabont. It's good. Season 1, great. Season 2, fine. By the time season 4 comes around, really just a yawn fest. So watch season 1 if you want. All right, number 7, The Last Letter from Your Lover. This is a brand new movie, and it's about a pair of interwoven stories that's set in the present and the past that follows Ellie Harworth as she's an ambitious journalist who discovers a trove of secret love letters from 1965 and becomes determined to solve the mystery and the forbidden affair in the center. So this movie is boringly romantic. I happen to like it for some reason. I am a sucker, if you don't know that. Outside of my hatred for Ghostbusters 2 and everything Kevin Hart, I am a romantic. This is directed by Augustine Frizzle, written by Nick Payne. You know that name. It's also based on a book by Jojo Moyes. So if you want a little a hallmarky, heartfelt thing, it's a bit cliche, but it's fine. Number 6, Coco Melon. I'm putting together like a 13-part docu-series about what this thing is and what it's doing for people. And you got to stay tuned for that one. I'm not going to get into it. Number 5, Never Have I Ever. This is a TV show. It is brilliant. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. It's about it's the complicated life of a modern-day first-generation Indian-American teenager who's inspired by Mindy Kaling's own childhood. It's created by Lang Fisher and Mindy Kaling. Stars Materi Ramakrishnan. Probably didn't get that right. But season 2 just started. It is a beautiful teen drama. It's not really my choice drama because our choice of genre, mostly because it's not done well. I usually don't like soapy melodramas, but for some reason, this thing just worked. It is unexpected. I absolutely loved it. Didn't have high hopes, but fell in love with it. Cannot wait for season 3. Check it out. Never Have I Ever. Number 4.
Hey Zach, I think I reviewed it probably before you were a regular on the show, way back at the beginning. But the most brilliant part of the show that ties it all together and adds the creativity is the John McEnroe narration, which is just absolutely out of nowhere and hysterical. I was really surprised. I watched it too, the first season, and reviewed it, and I loved it. I think it's a really
great
fun little show.
Really cool. Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot to put that in my notes that John McEnroe's conversations about aggression and how to deal with anger is so cool and so quippy and absolutely perfect. So if you're looking for something light and really pleasant, check out Never Have I Ever. Now, 4, Manifest. I don't understand why people are still watching this garbage about a plane. It's still on there for some reason, so whatever. Check it out if you're into a plane that's missing, and then it's not missing. Number 3, Virgin Rivers. Now, I talked about this real garbage movie from Hallmark before, and I refuse to even talk about it again unless it shows up on here, and then I will. But number 2, Blood Red Sky. Now, this is a very cool movie, brand new. It's about 5 days old. A woman with a mysterious illness is forced into action when a group of terrorists attempt to hijack a transatlantic overnight flight. Now, directed by Peter Thorwarth, written by Stephen Holtz and Peter Thorwarth. I don't like saying that word for some reason, Thorwarth. But the cool thing about this is it's kind of like a blurring of genres. So it started out as like an air hostage film, which is like fine and action filled, but then it turns into a B movie vampire thing, which is really surprising. I didn't expect it. And it's almost like a Dusk Till Dawn kind of feel where you're like, all right, I'm into this bank robbery creep dude movie. Then it like swerves hard. You're like, whoa, I don't understand, but I'm so into this. Main character has like really emotion. So it's really good. It's a German movie with German and English language in it. So it kind of adds cool suspense because you don't always know what people are saying unless you speak German, which I do not. But check it out, Blood Red Sky. All right, number 1. Now, I think this is a show for definitely at least half of the people on this panel. It's called All American. Now, this just hit, I think its 4th season. It's coming out very soon. But 3 seasons just showed up on Netflix, and it's about when a high school football player from South Central is recruited to play at Beverly Hills High School. 2 separate worlds collide. It's created by April Blair, and it stars Daniel Ezra and Taye Diggs, as well as Samantha Logan. This is kind of your typical smart kid with an athletic talent, but he's from the rough part of town. But they're actually doing it with a pretty good amount of style and flair. Everything, it's a bit cliched, and you can tell. But if you like, so to me, it's like if the OC collided with Friday Night Lights, and you're into cheese and cliche, and I am. So I'm not really into sports stuff, and this actually moistened my palate. That's not a saying. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, if you're into sports,
we're gonna have to go back and edit that out.
Please. I'm sorry. I've had a rough couple weeks, but either way, so that's the garbage. It's on Netflix for the U.S. in the I guess on my TV. I have
Are you saying that was the Netflix?
I gotta practice that more often.
Yeah. All right. All right. We've got a fun and musical show for you today. We're gonna kick right off with Woodstock '99. Music Box on HBO Max.
So the show is from a series called Music Box. It's created by Bill Simmons. Everybody knows, the former sports guy from ESPN, who was heavily involved in the creation of the ESPN 30 for 30 films, and has the Ringer podcast, and is all things sports and pop culture. So my wife and I watched this week, and we absolutely loved it. It starts off talking about how what Woodstock 69 was, and I fully remember watching the videos of Woodstock 69, hearing stories about it. And then Woodstock 94, which was so brilliantly received and was fantastic, included a bunch of acts that were there for Woodstock 69 as well as a bunch of others. And I kind of remembered, but didn't fully remember. But Woodstock 99 was the absolute antithesis of everything from those first 2 Woodstocks. It was developed by 2 of the guys who were involved with the planning of the other films, and everything about it was different. And it's a documentary that's it's a little bit the fire fire festival and kind of that. So just a bunch of things that were out of control in the production of Woodstock 99. Number one, the venue itself. They talk about the irony of the venue itself, that it was held on an Air Force base, and an old Air Force base, which in and of itself, you can't imagine Woodstock 69, especially, and then 94, that was about peace and love and anti-establishment, being held on an Air Force base, right? So that's funny, Jerry. Very good. So that was number one. Number two, the weather. It was ridiculously hot during the entirety of the festival, and it rained overnight the first night. So it created insane changes to what would be a more normal festival. First of all, just the access to drinking water. They talk a lot, which didn't seem like a big deal, but they talk a lot that buying a beer was the exact same price as buying a bottled water, $4. So these kids were drinking beer instead of drinking bottled water, which fueled the behavior that got worse and worse during the course of the weekend. Then the facilities themselves were so shabby put together. The temporary bathrooms that were all outside the main tented areas all leaked all over the place. It became sewage, but these kids who were so drunk because they were drinking beer, not water, amongst potentially other things, were saying they were rolling around in the mud, but everybody that was involved said they were rolling around in crap. It wasn't mud at all. Then they had these free drinking fountains, but the drinking fountains were next to the sewage. So people were showering in them because the showers were disgusting. So there was that. The security and staff essentially were they talked about the testing that they did to get these security guards permitted to work the event, which was like an hour exam. And the question was like, do you want to be a security guard? Great, you pass. They got a yellow shirt and a credential, and they went into the venue. They hid their credential, took off their yellow shirt, wore a different yellow shirt, or wore a different shirt, and waded into the festival for the entire weekend. They were nowhere to be found to solve any issue. Or the ones that were working the door would not allow somebody to bring their own food and beverage in, but would happily take $25 to let them bring drugs. Let them bring drugs in their backpack. So that was crazy. But the biggest issue, without question, was the choice of the musical acts. You know, Woodstock 69 was the Grateful Dead and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Joni Mitchell and again, some of those acts were there for Woodstock 94, and it was other big names. Woodstock 99, like the one band that everybody talks about that went crazy, they came out on stage the first night giving everybody the finger, second night giving everybody the finger, was Limp Bizkit. And they just drove the insanity of the weekend. But it was Limp Bizkit, it was Korn, it was Red Hot Chili Peppers, Bush, Kid Rock, Metallica, and it was a totally different crowd, and it was the opposite of the types of acts, and they talk about how did they not know, and then the other part of it that was amazing was MTV was there broadcasting live, and this was the point where MTV had really begun to be the station of Britney Spears, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and this was not that crowd. So they were the mere presence of MTV was riling up everybody. So that was fantastic. It was just built to explode, and by the final night, it did. They set fires all over the place. The state police had to come in and clear the entire venue because it was on fire, literally. But here's the thing that they talked a little bit about, which not to go down a political rabbit hole, but just a tone rabbit hole, I guess. I find myself today, with the climate in our country, very often saying to myself, how are they so angry? And why are they so angry? And by they, I mean upper middle class white males, right? Why are they so angry? And then you look back and say, almost the entirety of this event, Woodstock 99, was 20 to 25-year-old white males, upper middle class white males. And when I look at people that I knew attended Woodstock 69 or saw interviewed at Woodstock 69 later in life, and you see the type of people that they were, giving, caring, peaceful, open-minded. And then you look at the type of people that this was their formative event, Woodstock 99. You go, okay, that's where they came from. They lived for Woodstock 99, and they never stopped being angry. And that's what this event was about. It was crazy just to see the type of behavior for no reason by people that were just, destroying things toward the end of the festival for no reason. They knocked down an artist-created peace wall at the venue just for something to do. So all of that, it was a great study on an event, but to me, it also became a great character study in the types of people that attended Woodstock 99 and kind of the lasting effect of it. So I thought it was fantastic. The other thing that was cool was I was telling Jeff earlier, they interviewed Jonathan Davis from Korn, who I got to spend a day with about a year and a half ago. And he is one of the nicest, quietest, most peaceful guys. So watching him on stage in their prime to where he is 20 years later was pretty cool to see how cool he had changed. But anyways, I love this documentary. I'm very excited. The other documentaries upcoming in the series, there's going to be one on the last years of DMX's life, on the legacy of Little Jagged Pill by Alanis Morissette, and a bunch. I think there's 8 in total. But I loved it. Jeff, you watched it too, I know.
Yes, DMX and Alanis Morissette, both at Woodstock 99. I think DMX kicked it off even. And actually, they talk a lot about DMX because he did a song to a predominantly white audience that had the N-word and basically, as they said, gave them permission to say it back to him.
Right.
And the uncomfortableness that it would have created for the non-white people in the audience. But just to be clear, the angst, and you could kind of feel Howard's tone during it. This is a great movie, but it's also very difficult to watch. At one point, I had to convince my wife to keep watching it. It is literally watching a group of hundreds of thousands of people turn into Lord of the Flies over a 3-day period. This is 72 hours, right? So
yeah,
they one of the things that they talk a lot about is a guy who eventually died at the thing from hypothermia, because many people had hypothermia. They didn't have proper medical. They gave him paddles instead of taking his temperature because they didn't even know how to handle it, and killed him. And many people were raped. Unknown numbers of people were molested and raped. And the interesting thing that they brought up was that there was a sort of mystique put over Woodstock 69, where a lot of this also happened at Woodstock 69. But the movie that got created, everything kind of created this euphoric version of this, as if all these people came together. The angst that they talk about is that, and it was interesting, I think it was Jewel that kind of said it, was there was no reason for this event. Like there in 69, there was reasons. People were galvanized around issues. There were no issues except white anger. That was done by, led up by Limp Bizkit. Oh, we lost somebody.
Yeah, Tony. Yeah, that was the other thing. The overwhelming the treatment of women at the event, the casual sexual assault. Just any woman who was passed up in the mosh pit wasn't being passed up in the mosh pit. She was being felt up by every guy that was involved in passing her up.
Is there a lot of security?
Security. The security was all
none.
Bullshit. It was basically bullshit. And the owners were like, "We're blaming MTV for the bad press." Meanwhile, the place is going down in flames, and they're blaming MTV, who
blame Limp Bizkit.
At one point, MTV basically told their people, like Carson Daly, "We can't even make sure that you're safe. You need
guarantee
to
your
right
protection."
now.
Right.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, let's
He's back.
Tony's back just in time too. So let's actually go to Tony.
Oh,
And
thanks.
sorry, that's on HBO and
Right.
HBO Max.
Yes.
The Woodstock. documentary.
That's we could talk forever about that. I love that. So shot caller with a bunch of people. John
Yeah.
Berthenthal.
Ooh.
So so you got John Berthenthal, and then you got I want to say, I'm gonna butcher his name, but it's Nikoash. It's Jamie Lannister from Game of
Jamie
Thrones.
Lannister. Yes.
And it's the Punisher. So it's those two that play obviously huge parts. But what I loved about this is on Netflix. So if you don't have Netflix, you're crazy, and you probably shouldn't be watching this show. But this is worth the watch. The trailer does not do it justice. And if you like Game of Thrones, or if you've seen Jamie Lannister acting, he's a really good actor. You could tell he's a theater actor. You could tell he's got he's got a lot of mobility in his acting. So he's just overall a good actor. So put that aside for a second. You've never seen a movie like this because the large majority of it is actually based in prison. But what's super interesting about it is he originally goes to prison because, spoiler alert, he does something that could probably happen to any of us. It's in the trailer, but I don't want to talk about it too much. But he's a really good guy, good family guy. And he gets imprisoned and incarcerated for this horrible crime. And he ends up going in, and his lawyers say, hey, listen, dude, you're fucked. I mean, that's, you need to embrace it. I mean, quite literally, they say to him, either you're going to take it in the ass or you're not. I mean, that's just kind of how this is. So he has to make this, no pun intended, he has to make this decision to where he either needs to like be a different person, or he needs to be the dude that he is, but he might get fucked up because he's going to spend the next 20 years in prison. So you follow him on the story in prison, but then you think that's the movie because it doesn't show this in the trailer. What I loved about it is you fall in love with him in prison, and then as the movie goes on, you don't like him anymore because he's a totally different person. He gets out, and again, this is in the trailer, so no spoilers here, but his wife doesn't recognize him. He's done some crazy shit in prison that I can't even talk about. Crazy shit that he would never do, but he had to do. And then when he gets out of prison, he has an opportunity. There's so many twists and turns. He has an opportunity to go back to the way he was, but he spent so many years in prison. He has fallen into this character. It's very psychological. It's very almost like Jekyll and Hyde type of thing. It's definitely worth the watch. The trailer, again, does not do it justice. Just open up Netflix, make a point to watch this because it is psychotic and fantastic. And it's got the Punisher and the guy from Game of Thrones. So just give it a watch.
Okay.
Awesome.
Is it a movie or a series? I'm sorry.
No, it's one movie. Yeah, I did.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know if it was a series. All right, cool. I'll check that out.
Jerry's like on fire today. I don't know what's up with Jerry, but Jerry's
I read that earlier. I was like, yes, that's fantastic.
That is so funny.
Well done, Jerry.
Oh, man.
I like
All
it,
right,
Jerry.
so you do recommend what was this on again?
Netflix.
Okay. Yeah,
Jeez.
his name is Nikolai Coster-Waldau or something.
Wallow.
Wow, that was
Wallow.
better from what I did. Yeah,
Well, I just
Jamie
looked
Lannister. So no one on the panel has seen this?
No, I haven't, but I'll see it.
Oh wow,
I'm surprised Zach hasn't seen it. He's seen everything.
yeah, dude, Zach, you've seen everything. Zach's seen the fucking octopus teacher. I would think that he.
I love that thing.
I have to go see it because
that was beautiful.
I felt so bad after your beautiful octopus teacher review, and then talking about how I had just eaten octopus.
Yeah,
I felt horrible.
That's why I wanted to pick Shot Caller, because I went from this gorgeous like documentary that's going to open up your brain and put you in this different world, and then Shot Caller is absolutely brutal and disgusting, and yeah, it's awesome. So
Scott Curtis wants to know if we're live.
Oh boy. He's got that asparagus pea face still on.
And that was good. Somebody hold up a newspaper. Okay. All right. Well, this is the exciting part of the show where we turn it over to Sal. We never know what's going to happen. The Last Paradiso.
This is another movie probably Zach hasn't seen. This is The Last Paradiso. This is a foreign film. This is an Italian foreign film. Let me tell you who it's directed and written by. I don't want to ruin their names because they're more Italian than me. It's directed by Rocco Riccadulli, who plays the lead character's father in the movie. He directed it, and he also co-wrote it with Riccardo Scaranuccio, who plays Ciccio, and he's the main character. So I wanted to give you that. So this takes place in Italy. It's a small town in Italy, and it kind of hit home to me because that's where my parents are from. So don't picture Rome or Milan or one of those. Picture like a small town in the middle of Italy. This might have been filmed in Sicily, but I'm not sure. I could not find anything on where this was filmed. I don't know why, but anyway, so think a small town in Italy, and basically there's probably 2,000 people who live in this town, maybe not even that, and they're farmers. So just picture they're farmers, they're olive farmers, and then there's a landlord of the land that owns all the land, and he's the rich dude, and everybody works for him. So it's that kind of feel, which is very similar to my mom and dad. My mom and dad did that. They plowed fields early in their life. So it kind of hit home to me like that. But basically, obviously, the rest of it has nothing to do with my mom and dad because the shit that happens here. It's kind of a romantic Italian drama film. And so basically, there's the premise of it, or there's the location. And then the lead guy, Ciccio, is he's a guy that kind of sleeps around the town, sleeps with a lot of women in the town, and he's married with 3 kids. And he's one of these olive farmers, and he's kind of like the lead of all the other farmers. So he's like more educated than them. He speaks out, and they don't get paid very well. And one night in the bar, he kind of goes up to the landlord, who's like this domineering character, and just tells them that, we need to make more money, and we work all year, and you're paying us for like 3-4 months worth of work, and we're just gonna sell the olives to somebody else. And he's causing a lot of havoc. Now he's sleeping with this guy's daughter. He falls in love with this girl named Bianca, even though he's married, and his wife knows he's sleeping with her, and the whole town kind of knows, and he's just fallen in love with her. He wants to marry her, and his wife knows he's sleeping with her, and the whole town kind of knows, and he's just fallen in love with her. He wants to marry her, and his wife. What's going on? Is there something going on? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
I felt like I heard myself back. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It was
so good. We had to hear it 3 times.
So I thought I was hearing myself review it. So anyway, so basically he's sleeping with this girl, and the father finds out. Father eventually finds out because the whole town knows. His wife knows, and spoiler alert, like Tony said. Basically, the father murders him. He says, "Hey, I want to meet you out in the field and talk to you about maybe doing some business." And he tells him the soil is great. And the guy leans down, Ciccio, and he hits him over the head with a shovel, kills him. I got to tell you all this because it's part of the movie. Anyway, and it's early on in the movie, so you're like, "What?" I mean, I was blown away because I thought this guy was going to be in the movie the whole time. Well, he is, because now he's dead, but his brother, who they never show, lives in France. He kind of moved away, and it's the same actor, and he's got like a mustache. He makes himself look a little different, and he comes to town to kind of place revenge on the man that killed his brother. And then, and I don't want to spoil it, but I don't want to tell the rest of the movie, but that's kind of the gist of it. It's in subtitles if you want, like somebody said earlier. I loved it in speaking Italian because I understood it. I watched a little bit of it in English, and I'm like, nah, it's not. It wasn't that good in English, but in Italian, I think these actors did a great job. It had a great cast. The cinematography was great. The location, the scenes, and all that were great. Not enough jokes, Jeff. No,
there never is
jokes. But all in all, I thought it was good. I'm going to give it for a foreign film and a Netflix film. I'm going to give it 4 tomato sauce jars.
Oh,
I
nice.
thought it was a very, very good film. Only about an hour. I think it's an hour and 47 minutes. I read some reviews on it. It was very hard to find reviews on this. There was a review from Digital Mafia Talkies. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. Digital Mafia Talkies. They reviewed it, and they kind of felt the same way I did. They said it was good acting, but they thought that the premise was great, but it kind of could have used a little bit more to it. Almost like it kind of reminded me of The Talented Mr. Ripley in a way, the way it was just shot and everything. But I thought it needed a little bit more as well. But I mean, overall, I thought it was a really good movie. If you're into the foreign films and you're into subtitle films, I thought it was really good. I highly recommend it if you're a Netflix subscriber.
Hey, Sal, it sounded like it needed a little bit more of a Scorsese twist to it. Just a little.
Yes. Yeah, a little more killing.
Yeah.
Right? A little more killing. Only one guy dies, and that's Chichio, so there's no other deaths in it. The actresses are absolutely beautiful. Bianca is beautiful. His wife is beautiful. I mean, there's great actors in it and actresses. Very well done. Very well done. I give these guys 4 tomato sauce jars.
That's awesome. Nice. And I just want to point out, Scott Curtis has been trolling us.
Scott, thank you, Scott.
Oh man, that's funny.
Are you changing the format?
Hey, you gotta stick with what works.
Yeah.
Okay, so hey, so I watched this show called McCartney 321 on Hulu. It's a Hulu original. Did any of you guys happen to watch this?
I did not.
No.
Okay, so what this show is, this is literally kind of just 6 episodes. It could have been like one giant 3-hour kind of thing, but they cleverly and smartly broke it down into like 30-minute chunks, which to me makes something so much easier to watch. So for those of you who don't know, Paul McCartney, who was in this band in the late 60s called
The Monkees,
Beatles.
right?
No,
Beatles.
the
Sorry,
Monkees.
Beatles.
They based it on the Monkees. And so Paul McCartney, obviously one of the biggest names in music, and just the Beatles being one of the biggest bands of all time. And Rick, it's a conversation with him and Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin is he's been called one of the most important music producers in the past 20 years. He's was named once one of the most influential people in the world. So he was a co-president of Columbia Records. He co-founded Def Jam Records,
right.
And he was known for kind of doing one of Johnny Cash's he's been known for a million things. He's done a million things, but he's worked with almost every major artist in the world. He did one of my favorite Neil Diamond things. He had a way of working with the musicians to kind of get them down to their core sound. He's just a machine with how to do it. So it's basically just a conversation between him and Paul McCartney. Most of the conversation, they're this mix board. And so what they're talking about is the songs, but the minutia detail in the songs, of which I have to admit, I don't appreciate as much as I'm sure a lot of people would. For example, one time I went into an appliance store to buy speakers, and they're like, listen, these are the $500 speakers. I'm like, mm-hmm. And these are the ones you can just get for free because we just threw them out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't tell the difference. Okay. Okay, just to give you an idea. I mean, just the baseline. But
a tin-ear.
Tin-ear, yeah. So they were sitting there and they'd be talking about how he would play the bass, or how and it wasn't just about him. It was John Lennon and Ringo and their influences. But they were sitting there for a lot of it at the mix board. He'd take away all the sound, or he'd take away all the instruments, and it would just be the music. Where he'd change how different things came together. And Paul would talk about the stories of how they would mix things together and how they were going for certain sounds, and how they would come in as sort of this one type of song and change it right in the middle and all that kind of stuff. So each episode sort of has its own little theme. The first episode is sort of just the early days and going through some of the stories. And I do have to say, I've watched a lot of things over the years on the Beatles, and there was only a couple of stories that I felt were repeats. You know what I mean? Where, I've heard this story before. You did tell a story, which I didn't know the story. I only knew the fact of when Eric Clapton came in for While My Guitar Gently Weeps, because George Harrison had written that. And George Harrison originally wasn't a writer for the Beatles, but he grew to be a writer, and arguably grew to be one of probably the best writers in music. And so, but he knew he needed Eric Clapton. He probably didn't realize Eric Clapton was stealing his wife, but he knew he needed Eric Clapton to come in. So he brought him in to do the guitar. because it was the music was more important than what he could have done it, right?
Wow.
And so they're just telling stories like that.
Wow.
Even though I don't think he's credited, he might be credited on the album. I'm not sure if he is. But then they talked about there's a whole episode just on the musical influences and sort of the innovations that they had, because the Beatles were known for like doing like just some crazy stuff that no one else had done with sounds and mixing. And it was the first time I ever heard Paul McCartney, and I'm sure he has, I'm not saying, but like say Pete Best's name. He told, I think it was in episode 3 or 4, where they talked about Ringo. Ringo, I have to admit, didn't realize was the oldest Beatle. He's older than all of them. Didn't realize that. He was the most mature musician of them all. And by just happenstance, Pete Best doesn't show up one day. They get Ringo Starr to come in. And the way Paul was talking about Ringo Starr playing behind him, George, and John, it was like all of a sudden, boom, this made the band. Like it was like Ringo was what elevated them to what they knew they could be. Then that's one of the reasons they're like, we got to get this guy. We had to make him part of our band. And it's funny because I don't know how you guys are, but growing up with the Beatles, it was always John and Paul, then kind of George, and then Ringo was just the fun drummer who you really, you always thought he was just like the fourth, But from hearing Paul tell this story, it was fascinating to hear him talk about it, how Ringo was like this, just this rock when it came to what eventually became what we all know and love as the Beatles. Then it kind of talks about George Martin and his impact on the band and how much influence he had. They considered him the fifth Beatle in terms of how putting the music together and a lot of the different things that they did. It was George Martin that came to him and said, "For Yesterday, let's put the strings on it. Let's add that." They were totally against that at first, and then, but it was like his ear that they had this real relationship and connection that was very kind of special and kind of made the magic there. Then they do go into they do cover a lot of John stuff and some George songs too. So it's not just a deep dive on Paul's stuff. When they do they talk about Live and Let Die or some of his solo stuff, they do kind of go into that as well, just in terms of McCartney. But they always kind of come back to the Beatles, and then. And then it talks a lot about his relationship with John Lennon and how Paul McCartney became the bassist, the bass player for the band. Originally they were all guitar players, but the other two wouldn't do it, so he did, and then ultimately became one of the best bass players like ever. And the funny thing is, Paul McCartney can't read music. Like he would play it and someone else would write it down. He still to this day cannot read music and or write it. It's fascinating because he can play every single instrument. He can do, when he did the original McCartney album after the Beatles broke up, he did everything. He played every album, engineered the whole album, put everything together, and then named it McCartney because John Lennon named his Lennon. They don't talk about it now, but if you go back to that original McCartney album, there's a picture of two Beatles having sex on it. Basically F the Beatles type thing.
When they were at the mixing board, did Paul say we need more cowbell? Did he say that?
I got a fever.
I guess.
So this is I haven't seen it, but I know that I'm going to mention this to my wife, and my wife is a Beatles fanatic. Just a few years ago, I was fortunate enough with my wife to do a private Beatles tour of Liverpool with an expert, and we were able to go to all these great locations and get the inside stories. So Penny Lane. We went on Penny Lane. We stood in the roundabout. We went into the barber shop. And he walked us through the lyrical writing. Eleanor Rigby, the Eleanor Rigby's grave, where they used to hang out across the street from the school where John and Paul met, and that's where they would go to smoke and hang out. And he would just say all the lonely people were all these random graves. It was the coolest thing. And then, of course, I proposed to my wife in John Lennon's childhood bedroom that he grew up in. So I'm going to have to watch this show for sure, Jeff. That's awesome. You made me think of, and maybe it's something I'll review down the road, but another one, it sounds similar with him and Rick Rubin and I'm not going to remember the name, but one of my favorite music documentaries is Jimmy Page, The Edge from U2, and Jack White, the three of them sitting there playing guitar and talking about playing guitar, and then talking about some of the key parts of some of their songs, and they're each trying to learn how to properly play the others. I love stuff like that because you get real insight to how these iconic songs were created. It's really cool to see that. So,
Howard, did you ever
Paul
see, or Howard, or all you guys, did you guys see James Corden car karaoke with Paul McCartney? Did you see that? That was
did. So we were there. We were in Liverpool like 2 months after that was aired on James Corden's show. Okay. So, for example, Paul McCartney's childhood house that he walked through with James Corden. Yeah. The woman who was there in the house, because it's part of it's a national museum basically. She was the person who was there when we went and visited the house. Okay. So we actually talked to her about that. She had been there for years doing that and had never met him. And then him and James Corden just show up one day to film there. So, yeah. That's awesome. And the barber shop that they go into is right on Penny Lane. We were there for that too. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Cool. That is awesome. You know what else is cool? Yeah. Crossing the Streams, but it's over.
Yeah.
We've come to the end of another episode. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. Rosner, say goodbye. Say goodnight.
Goodbye. See you all next week.
Sal, say goodnight.
Good night, everybody. SalDemilio.com. Come see my show.
Zach.
Good night, everybody. Go see Sal's show.
Thanks, Zach.
SomeNobodies.com. All right. Tony, say goodnight. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thanks for having me on. Let's do it again. TheBerardo.com for the podcast and all the crazy reaction videos.
Yeah, and I'm Jeff Dwoskin, JeffIsFunny.com, live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. Check that out. And we'll see you next Wednesday, every Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here, Crossing the Streams. And that has been another episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow the Jeff Dwoskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff Dwoskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio, Zach Wiseman. We're all in the socials. Follow us. Listen to our podcasts live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show, the Sal and Bob Show, and Some Nobodies. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you then.